Yeah, it's time for another transfer episode once again. The Premier League is eating up. In about 2 weeks from now. We will be discussing the Premier League in proper, but for now, we have lots of transfer development to talk about. And first off, Victor, tell us your rating about Granit Xhaka, the former Arsenal captain, back in the Premier League and joining newly promoted Sunderland, who are continuing their spending spree. Xhaka joined Sunderland for £17 million on a 3-year contract. How do you rate that signing?
It's a really solid one if you think about it because he brings so much experience and so much know-how, like specific Premier League know-how. If I'm being honest, I feel like 17 is a little bit steep, but you need to understand the fact that this is a newly promoted team who need good people coming in, good transfers. I also mentioned to you my worry with him is always the availability, not because of injuries, but rather because of suspensions. So I'm only going to give this one a 6. I would love to give it more. I have a soft spot for a hard man in midfield, but I'm only giving it a 6.
Yeah, fair enough. We're just going to see how, Zaka fares on his return, to the Premier League. And moving on to Manchester United, they continue, their striker search, and now it seems like it's going to be a two-way tussle for Benjamin Sesko. Newcastle are also, in the race, and now it seems like probably Newcastle and United might meet up with, Leipzig's demand, but it will be up to the player to decide ultimately. In your opinion, Victor, if it is down to Sesko to decide, who do you think he joins?
Uh, I mean, he's a bit used to the Champions League already because he's been with Leipzig for a moment, and in terms of immediate appeal and short-term future, it should be Newcastle. I don't think United offer much in terms of a long-term project right now. So if he chooses, like, of course, there's a lot. United is still the bigger club in terms of worldwide fan presence. So if someone like Sheshko is actually has grown up admiring United, then it might be a very simple decision. But at the same time, if he chooses with his brain instead of his heart, so to speak, then it should be Newcastle United.
Yeah, but United
Hmm.
will give him more playing time as well than Newcastle, I guess.
Well,
Especially if
I
he
mean,
succeed.
Newcastle are still probably preparing for life without Alexander Isak. And
Exactly.
if that's the case, I think Sheshko would be a starter for them in the vast majority of Champions League and Premier League games.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly the point. So, anyways, we're just going to see where Sesko ends up, but it looks like he's going to join one of both sides before the transfer window ends. And moving on, Max, this one's for you. Another rating to be done. Rate Dan Ndoye to Nottingham Forest for £35 million from Bologna on a 5-year contract.
You know, when I saw them signing two guys from Botafogo for 10 mil, I thought, okay, they know what they're doing. But now when you see them signing this dude for 35, you definitely feel like they forgot their mind at home because, I mean, last season was the first time he scored more than 4 goals in league. And he's playing for like 6 years already. And it was still not the biggest season at any case, like 8 goals and 4 assists. This is a level of, I don't know, second division winger, championship top six, I guess. So 35 mil is definitely overpaid.
Bologna scammed Forest
Yeah.
just like
I'd
how
say,
they scammed Arsenal.
yeah, I'd say it's a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, actually. Fair enough. I thought the same thing too when I saw the price. Like, why are they paying 35 mil? And then they are forcing Gibbs White to remain at the club. Literally, I felt like their priorities were misplaced, if you ask me. But yeah, Moving on, Max, and still with you. Newcastle are, in search of a goalkeeper after missing out on Trafford, who is set to resign for City. But now it looks like they are set to sign Aaron Ramsdale, former Arsenal goalkeeper from Southampton, on a loan deal that could later, be turned to a permanent buy. Do you think that can be considered a good move for Newcastle?
I remember seeing some posts that Ramsdale is often enough relegates to Championship, so I'm a bit scared about Newcastle at the moment. But actually, he's still capable of doing good things, but I don't feel like he's a top team goalkeeper at the moment. Because we all saw what happened with him at Arsenal. He was at the moment like third goalkeeper, I'd say, so we should wait and see, but I'd say this is definitely not a starter for Newcastle.
Fair enough. And back to you, Victor. William Saliba is progressing and advancing well in contract talks, with Arsenal and is, set to sign a new 5-year deal that would see Arsenal fend up interest from Real Madrid. How massive do you think that is for Arsenal?
Yeah, that's huge. Like this is exactly what Liverpool are hoping to do for Konate. What Arsenal is doing with Saliba. It would definitely be good for Arsenal, and I would say it's good for the Premier League. To keep hold of such an amazing centre back. I personally see him as like second only to Van Dijk at the moment in terms of quality in the Premier League at centre back. And him staying is definitely big for Arsenal, and it's big for the Prem as well.
Yeah, I said that's the only good take I've seen from Victor in like 4 weeks. That's the only thing Victor has said that I can easily agree with without nodding my head. Saliba behind Van Dijk. I can accept that. But yeah, moving on, Max. So Rodrygo, from Real Madrid, it is, we've said that on many episodes lately that Rodrygo, is attracting interest from the Premier League, and it seems now that he has told his camp, to speed up the process of finding another club for him, and he continues to attract interest from the trio of Liverpool, Arsenal, and Tottenham. In your opinion, which of these sides do you think he might join?
Mm, it's actually hard to realize because, firstly, Liverpool already paid a lot of money for different signings, but they still probably need a winger. But I'm not sure they're capable of giving 150 mil or so for him. Talking about Arsenal, they were scared to pay 65 for Gyökeres. I'm not sure they're going to pay 130 for Rodrygo. And Spurs, it's just the Spurs. So, to be honest, I don't really see him joining one of these three clubs. But if I should choose which one is more realistic, probably Liverpool actually.
Yeah, I think at first glance I would say Liverpool, but the reason my mind is telling me not Liverpool is that Rodrigo's wages are, we're talking almost Salah's kind of wages, and I doubt Liverpool would be willing to give. I doubt FSG would be willing to give Rodrigo that kind of amount at the
Yeah,
very onset.
that's a really good point. He would have to take a pay cut, and he would have to take a pretty big pay cut, probably around 30 or 40%, which I doubt he would do at this stage in his career, considering
Exactly.
that he would have offers from like Saudi or whatnot. Um, Personally, I don't think it will be Liverpool. Even if Liverpool sell Diaz, I think they feel like they're covered with Cody Gakpo can play as a left winger. He's Schlott is probably gonna try Ekitika there if Isak comes in, and there's also Ngumoa coming up from the academy who will be getting some minutes this season as well. So I don't think it will be Liverpool.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think Arsenal can afford his wages, but like just like Max rightly put it, I don't think Arsenal would want to pay Real Madrid the asking price. That's the
No,
thing.
out of the three, I think the only ones who would be, let's say, daft enough to do it are Spurs,
Yeah.
because It's a lot
Son
of
might be
money.
leaving. Son might be leaving though, so it does make sense
Exactly.
for
So
them.
there's that factor, and also they do have a history of overpaying at times
Yeah,
for much worse players than Rodrygo. I mean, Richarlison is the first one that springs to mind. You know, they paid so much
Werner.
for him. Werner as well, but like with Werner, they didn't pay huge amounts of money. It wasn't nearly as much
and
as Richarlison.
even the Sri Lanka as well, 65 mil.
Solanke, and I think to a certain extent Brennan Johnson as well. Even though I rate the kid, don't get me wrong, but they tend to overpay often enough, and
Yeah.
I'm not entirely certain with their wage structure what that looks like. But I think they would. Out of the three, I think they're the only ones daft enough to pay like that.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyways, we're just going to have to wait and see where the future of Rodrigo lies. And for now, that's all we have in this video. And we'll be sure to discuss other transfer news and development in our next transfer episode.